The Commanders suffered an embarrassing loss in Week 3 to the Buffalo Bills at home by a final score of 37-3, and I am here to react to all the overreactions that I've been seeing on Commanders Twitter over the last 24 hours. Welcome into the Commanders Report, and before we get into today's action, get us started down there in the comments section by giving me your confidence level in the Commanders after this week's loss as a team. Put it on a scale of 1 to 10 for me down there in the comment section to get us started. Now let's go over the first overreaction, which is that Sam Howell is a bad NFL quarterback and was exposed as such in Week 3 versus the Buffalo Bills. Now, to me, this is a clear overreaction. We've seen a lot of good football from Sam Howell. He had it in spurts in this game, but definitely in the first 2 weeks versus the Cardinals and versus the Denver Broncos. This week, it was a bit of a different story. I mean, you just can't look at these numbers here and tell me that Sam Howell had a good game. He didn't have a good game. 4 picks, no touchdowns, and less than 200 yards passing. You can't look at these numbers and say Sam Howell had a good game because he did not. However, I'm looking at Sam Howell right now, and I think he's shown enough good stuff on tape through these first 3 weeks for me to believe in him moving forward, right? This is one bad game. I mean, things were going wrong left and right the entire game offensively. And yes, Sam played a big part in that, and it definitely was the worst game that he's had so far as a starter in the National Football League. But you also have to remember, man, that was just his fourth NFL start ever, all right? And he's looked really, really good through the early action of his career. You get the Eagles this week. It's going to be another really tough test for him. But I'm still a believer in Sam Howell at this point in the process. He's shown some great stuff. Pocket movement, arm strength, the ability to target the middle of the field. We've seen a lot of good stuff from Sam Howell. And just because of one bad game, I'm not going to throw all of that away and completely throw the baby out with the bathwater here. So let me know down there in the comments section how you're feeling about Sam Howell. Are you worried about Howell after that Week 3 performance? 4 picks, no touchdowns, and this is going to be the pinned comment on today's show. So if you're worried, type W. If you're not worried, type NW down there in the comments section. Again, this is the pinned comment, so YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. When that happens, take advantage of that time by answering today's pinned question. The second overreaction here is that Washington needs to make a move on the offensive line before Week 4 versus the Philadelphia Eagles. And I'm going to say this one's pretty darn reasonable, okay? Let's be frank here with this offensive line. I've been saying it for at least 2-3 months at this point, probably all offseason. This offensive line stinks on paper, and now that we've seen 3 weeks of this, it's just not working. Charles Leno Jr. and Andrew Wiley, man, those tackles, I mean, you're probably locked into that just because there's no real good tackle talent on the offensive or in free agency right now. And then Sadiq Charles, I mean, seriously, I mean, most NFL fans have never heard Sadiq Charles' names in their life, man. Nick Gates, Sam Cosmi, they've been fine, I guess. But as a unit, this offensive line has not been good enough, and the Bills really did expose them, in my opinion. I think they absolutely need to go out in free agency and make a move here if Ron Rivera really wants to fix this offensive line problem, okay? I think the 2 best guys available, Ben Jones, former center for the Tennessee Titans, has played guard in his career as well. Then Roger Saffold here, formerly with the Buffalo Bills, also former Tennessee Titan as well, has played offensive guard. Both these guys have the most experience in the National Football League. They're recent starters in this league as well. So I'm looking at this. Ben Jones is by far my favorite at this point. But let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. If you could pick one interior offensive lineman to sign in NFL free agency, are you picking up Ben Jones or are you picking up Roger Saffold? Give me a BJ down there in the comments section if it's Ben Jones, or give me an RS if you'd rather go with Roger Saffold. Third overreaction here. The Commanders' defense was exposed as fraudulent during the Bills game. Now, of course, the defense I thought showed some really good things the first 2 weeks. And you look at that number there, 37-3. You're like, oh my gosh, the Commanders' defense gave up 37 points. But I'm here to tell you that's an overreaction, okay? Because first of all, the Bills' offense is excellent. Okay, you got Josh Allen, you got Stephon Diggs. They've got really good scheming as well. They got great coaching there in Buffalo. But also, they held that really good offense to 16 points in the fourth quarter. You know, once they got down by 3 scores, the floodgates really came open. and then they scored 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, and then all of a sudden, poof, it's 37-3 at the end of the game. So this is something that I'm looking at. I am not worried about the Commanders' defense whatsoever. You got first-round talents all along the defensive line. The secondary's really good. Jamin Davis is showing some good things. You know, Cody Barton, he hasn't played all that well to this point. But overall, Jack Del Rio's unit is really, really good in my opinion. And I think that this was kind of a flash in the pan in terms of giving up points here this season. Now, coming up here, should Ron Rivera, the head coach, be fired here in his 4th season as the Washington Commanders head coach? I'm going to be answering that question here in just a second. But first, let's have a word from our sponsor here at BetUS. Go to chatsports.com/bet. Use promo code CHAT125 to get a 125% deposit bonus today. Now, what does that mean exactly? That means if you put a deposit of $100 to $600 on the BetUS website, they're going to match that dollar figure 125% to use on your bet. So, for example, if you put a $100 deposit in, they're going to give you $125 additional dollars to use on your bets, a $225 value for just a $100 deposit. Sounds like a good deal to me. If you want to take advantage of that, go to chatsports.com/bet right now and use promo code CHAT125 to take advantage of that deposit bonus today. Now, Ron Rivera, overreaction number 4. Rivera is one of the worst NFL head coaches today and will be fired by season's end. Now, I think this one's a slight overreaction. I don't think he's the worst head coach in the National Football League. I mean, for God's sakes, Josh McDaniels is still a head coach in this league with the Las Vegas Raiders. Okay, so still got Riverboat Ron, who has made a Super Bowl, okay? And he's kept this team competitive throughout his time here in Washington. Of course, his first year in 2020. Made the playoffs there with a 7-9 record. They lost in the wild card playoff, of course, to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the eventual Super Bowl champions, with Taylor Heineke as the freaking quarterback, all right? In 2021, 7-10, the defense was bad. They lost their identity, but they still got 7 wins in that kind of bad era there of Commanders football where the defense was deteriorating, the quarterback play wasn't good either. And then 2020, again, the quarterback play was awful. Somehow Riverboat Ron got this team to 8-1, and of course they missed the playoffs. And you might be looking at these records and saying, man, this is a lot of mediocrity here in the nation's capital. And you'd be right about that, but it's really, really tough to be competitive in this league with bad defenses and terrible quarterback play. Let's just be frank with each other. And there's been some bad quarterback play here in Washington. Now the defense is back on the mend here. Sam Howell is the quarterback, and if he's as good as Commanders fans hope that he's going to be moving forward, that problem is fixed. And then you have a head coach that has built a really solid foundation in terms of culture here in Washington, and you could find some success here in a very competitive NFC East division. The grass isn't always greener on the other side. Just because there's one really bad blowout loss doesn't mean I'm ready to move on from Ron Rivera, but it's definitely possible if this team misses the playoffs, he could absolutely get fired this season. Now predict it for me down there in the comments section. Will Riverboat Ron get fired here during or after the 2023 NFL season? Give me a yes or give me a no. Predict it for me down there in the comments section. All right, final overreaction I'm going over today. The Commanders are not a playoff team. They're not a playoff caliber team and will miss the playoffs again in 2023. So this one kind of ties back to the Ron Rivera one, in my opinion. To me, this is also an overreaction. I still think the Commanders are capable of getting a wild card spot here in 2023. I have a feeling the Eagles, just the way that roster is constructed, the way that they can dominate on the trenches this year, I think they're probably going to win the NFC East. Okay, kudos to them for building a great roster. But when it comes to making a playoff run here for a wild card spot, I think this team could potentially do it. Now, the offensive line might be the linchpin there that keeps them away and kind of ruins this entire season, but the defense is playing well, in my opinion. Sam Howell looks like he has the tools and the capabilities to be a good starting quarterback in this league. And I think Ron Rivera has a decent culture here in Washington. And when you have those elements put together, I think, once again, the Commanders are going to be right in the thick of the playoff hunt here. And I think they could potentially get a nice wild card berth here by the end of the season. I'm not giving up on this season whatsoever. I know that's an ugly loss on Sunday, but I am not done. Keep the faith, people. Washington has a pretty decent football team here. You got to keep the faith. You got to stay patient. And if they're really playing with house money. You know, you start the season 2-0, then you take a bad loss to Buffalo. Now you're still playing with house money against the Philadelphia Eagles. Nobody expects you to beat the Eagles this week, but yet it's a divisional opponent. I mean, it's going to be tough for that offensive line to hold up against Jalen Carter and crew there in Philly. I'm not going to lie. But, man, you're playing with house money. If you lose, you're 500 and you're back to pretty much 0-0, right? It's a new season if you lose this week. However, if you win, people are really starting to talk about you, and you're sitting at 3-1. So I think the Commanders are in a really good spot right now, and I'd say keep the faith here because I think the Commanders are going to be a pretty darn competitive football team here in 2023. That's going to be it for today's show, guys. Really do appreciate all of your support. If you want to join our family here at the Commanders Report and help us get to 5,000 subscribers here, go ahead, do me a favor. Click that subscribe button. You can become an expert today because we have regular content on here. Tomorrow, we're going to be previewing this week's matchup versus the Philadelphia Eagles. Might give you guys a couple of surprising predictions in that one. Well, regular live watch parties, all right? So we're not doing one this week versus the Eagles, but we will be doing one the following week, Thursday Night Football, prime time versus the Chicago Bears. So make sure you click that subscribe button for our watch parties this year. And then also, guys, the best benefit, it's 100% free. You get premium Commanders content at no cost to you. Really would appreciate you if you join our family today. Thank you guys so much for your support. I will see you guys later. And as always, hail to the Commanders.